This is me when I go to the Cheesecake Factory, and I got that big old menu, all those options, but it doesn't matter because I'm ordering the same thing every time. It doesn't matter, and that's basically what this offense is.
So week 6 is in the books, and I want to break down some NFL sights and sounds from this week. And of course, we've got one of my favorite people in the world here to help me break it down, Mr. Lorenzo Reyes. So yeah, let's start off where week 6 ended off. Monday Night Football, the Jets losing to the Bills, which was noteworthy. But the bigger storyline here was how it all ended, the officiating, how bad it was. No new surprise here. From around the league, but let's take a listen at what Mr. Aaron Rodgers had to say after the game.
Yeah, it seemed a little ridiculous. Yeah, some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. Might as well play sarcastic ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either.
So the sarcastic ball reference, A1. I love it. I mean, you can't disagree with the guy, but also at the same time, like, I don't feel like that is what's holding the Jets back. Their penalties are insane, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was a tightly officiated game. It went both ways, but like, the Jets have a track record of this. You can't call out the officials when like, this is what you've been doing all year long. The last 3 games, the Jets have committed, or they haven't committed, they've been enforced, because a lot of times, they pick up flags, whatever, or they're offsetting. They've been enforced for 32 penalties. The last 4 games, it's resulted in 382 yards yielded by penalty. Like, this is not because of one bad crew or one bad, like, this is who they have become. It's a cultural issue, which is why when they fired Robert Saleh, I was like, okay, you got rid of this guy, but like, firing the head coach doesn't necessarily solve a cultural problem if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's not just penalties though, it's like their attention to detail is just really not where it needs to be. And I think that's why we see Aaron Rodgers getting so frustrated, because he is, in my time covering the league, the most exacting player. He expects his teammates to be in the precise spots, and if they aren't there, he tells them like, no, I want you there.
Well, it showed on Monday night.
Yeah, and it was just, to me, it's like the officiating thing. It can be an issue if there's a game that gets out of hand, but it's masking their other problems.
I want to look at a photo from week 6, specifically centered around the Cowboys, who were absolutely dominated by the Detroit Lions. So much of their play calling is in question. But I want to look at this picture of Mr. Mike McCarthy for a second. Him looking so puzzled, him just holding up what is it? His big board of plays, we'll call it. His big board of plays. And so I'm curious how you feel about this photo of him just in broad daylight. Horrible plays right there.
Yeah. High key, I recognize this. I'm very familiar with this. This is me when I go to the Cheesecake Factory, and I got that big old menu, all those options, but it doesn't matter because I'm ordering the same thing every time. It doesn't matter. And that's basically what this offense is. Like, they're so one-dimensional. You hear opposing players where they're calling out the plays before they happen. And like, if you're an offense, especially an offense that cannot run the ball, you're just not going to succeed. And I think people are criticizing Dak about this game. He didn't have a good game. There's no question. But like, you could have had like the Lord come down and play quarterback. They probably still would have lost that game, because let me read you some live stats here.
Give me some live stats.
At the end of the third quarter, this was the leading rushers for the Dallas Cowboys. Rico Dowdle, 3 attempts, 7 yards. Ezekiel Elliott, 5 attempts, 6 yards. CD had 1 attempt for 2 yards. Dak had 1 for 1. So they had 10 attempts for 16 yards at an average of 1.6 yards per carry. You're not going to win football games that way.
Horrible.
So
what is going on with CD?
I mean, CD, I think it's again, it goes down to the offense just being entirely one-dimensional, where if defenses know that Dallas isn't going to run the ball, you can drop back defenders, shade coverage, and it's going to be really difficult for CD to have a breakout game to like really impact the game. And then you have on the other side the Lions, who are a contender, and this just showed they just went to the NFC Championship game.
You lose Aiden, and you still
But to me, this just showed how big the gap was from a team that's contending versus a team that's
true.
trying.
We got to talk about the Eagles here for a second and that absolutely ridiculous post-game press conference by Nick Siriani after they barely squeaked out a win over the Browns. So let's listen to him for a second.
No, just excited. Just excited to get the win. Just excited to get the win. Yeah. It's hard to win in this league, so we're excited to get the win. Our fans created a couple false starts that really helped us win this football game. But just excited to get the win and appreciate the Lynx support.
Was that 5 times, 6 times? We're just happy to get the win.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say about this, but I'm going to let you go first.
It's just like, if there's a word I can think of, it's just annoying. It's annoying. Like, he reminds me of like the kid who like a mischievous kid who like starts something. It's like, oh, that wasn't me. I didn't do it. What are you talking about? It's not me. I mean, you said it. It's a game against the Browns, a team that's struggling, a team whose quarterback cannot play the position effectively. You're at home. It's the Eagles fans. Like they talk noise. They boot Santa. Like, you're gonna get a little flack.
You booted it.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's like you barely win over the god-awful Browns. You're mad at the fan, or you're clapping back at the fans for being mad at you for sucking, essentially. You know it's the Eagles. You mentioned it yourself. They booed Santa. And then you bring your kids into the post-game press conference to kind of ease the blow from reporters asking you tough questions. I think I counted 5 times he said, we're just happy with the win.
Yeah.
If you're happy with that win, you need a reality check, bro. I don't respect that.
Yeah. They had Devontae Smith back. They had A.J. Brown back. Jalen Hurts looked better. Like, there were positive things in the game. They still need to clean up a lot. Like Lane Johnson, they need to get back, all that stuff.
I would be so mad if I was an Eagles fan.
But imagine being an Eagles player. That's the question I have. Because if I'm an Eagles player,
What are you doing?
I'm just like, that's the guy that should be leading us. And I don't, like, I mean, you know, to each their own. It's just not my style. Like, I don't.
But you went to a Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I know, but like, he went to the Super Bowl on the heels of like the Doug Peterson,
Yes.
like the roster and the culture there. I mean, that's a long 2 years ago. Like, this team is not close to that. Like, act like you should expect to beat the Browns. And like, your first reaction, in my opinion,
We're just happy to be here.
yeah, but it shouldn't even be like it's like going against the people who are supporting you. And NFL owners may not admit this, but fan support and fan reaction does, at least maybe minimally, but it does influence the way teams make their decisions.
The Bucs at this point clearly look like they are contenders after beating the Saints at home. And you've got Baker Mayfield. I want to bring up this photo of him doing the shh look. I love it. I love him talking his talk right now, but how confident are you feeling in the Bucs right now?
Not that confident, honestly.
Really? You don't think
Yeah.
of them as contenders?
I mean, I think they're contenders to maybe win the division, contenders to get to the playoffs. Do I see them making a run? I don't know. What concerns me about Tampa is just their inconsistency. And like, going into the Superdome, you know, you're in a hostile environment, a division opponent. You beat the brakes off of them in the second half. You should be pumped up. Like, that's great momentum leading into next week.
Right.
But last week, the Buccaneers played the Falcons, another division opponent, also a contender to win that division.
Yes.
And they had leads at various times in the second half, and then they kind of, like, a few mistakes that they made led to the Falcons winning in overtime. 3 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks
Oh,
ago.
you're bringing up the 3 weeks ago. Okay, I'm interested.
They lost by 19 points to the Broncos. Like, again, you know, things happen, but that's a rookie quarterback going against a veteran defense, a defensive head coach. And that's kind of the thing with Tampa that I feel like that's become their thing, where they're just like, they have these really nice games. And like, what was interesting was against the Saints, it wasn't even Mike Evans that went off. It was like Godwin got involved, the running game got involved. It's just, I want to see.
They found their momentum now.
I fall for this thing every time.
You-
I'm like, oh, the Bucks look nice, and then
maybe.
like the next week they'll lose to, like, I don't know. I don't want.
Go listen to Lorenzo's locks today, and we'll figure it out.
I won't be picking Tampa. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, Okay, so we need to talk about Will Levis. I know you don't want to talk about Will. I sure as heck do not want to talk about Will, but the dude has become a memeable moment, like I think pretty much every single game up to this point. So at the time of him doing this Spider-Man touchdown celebration, they were 1-3. They are now 1-4. So does this anger you as much as it angers me? Maybe I'm just on one today, but I don't find it to be funny whatsoever. Like, dude, you need to worry more about your on-the-field play than you do about your one touchdown dance. And the moment you average more than 3.5 yards per completion, like maybe we can talk about it. But it's just not funny to me. Like, it's a disaster.
I'm with you, but like,
I feel bad for him.
I kind of do too because I think he needed time before being thrown in. I think they just kind of like threw him in there, and he was a player like I think most people coming out of college understood that he wasn't. I mean, he has a physical skill set, but I think the difficulty was maybe processing NFL defenses and just also like, you know, understanding how things are disguised, and maybe you shouldn't. NFL defenses bait players like Will Levis into sort of like making throws that lead to interceptions. So I think the Titans should play Mason Rudolph for a little bit, because I'm worried that with the interceptions, maybe the meme stuff is part of a problem too, but like I get concerned that like it can sort of like really deplete his confidence and build bad habits. And the thing with Calvin Ridley is interesting to me too, because like they brought him in to be a guy. He had 8 targets, not a single catch, and a lot of the targets were just like way off. And I mean, it's hard to bench a player, especially a young player, but it's just not working right now.
Hey sports fans, if you want to see more conversations with athletes and stars, check out these videos right here and be sure to subscribe for more from USA Today Sports.